Would we start from the brief description of the three parts of the liturgy, and given what?
Well,
Yes, Father Paul, thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us. And would we start from the brief description of the three parts of the liturgy, and given what which is included in the first, second, and third part of the liturgy?
well, as you know from my liturgy book, we refer to the first part of the liturgy as the synaxis, and we refer to the second part of the liturgy as the Eucharist, and then the very brief conclusion of the liturgy called the apollysis, or dismissal. A lot of people will be looking to hear the proscomedia, the preparation of the bread and wine, included as a part of the liturgy. In fact, even in the OCA book, it's called the Liturgy of Preparation. But all that really is preparation and getting things done in advance so they did not take up time in the actual liturgy itself. It's not really a public part of the liturgy. And one educator some years back was calling for the proscomedia to be done out in the midst of the people so they could see the tedious preparation of the gifts of bread and wine. But it's absolutely useless because it's full of, well, contradictory and warring themes. It has a long history, and I just mentioned this now to just advise you that not to be drawn in that direction, to give the proscomedia, or the preparation, more importance than it really has. As you know, in the bishop's liturgy, the priest prepares everything quickly, saying nothing, and then the bishop, at the proper time of the great entrance, finishes the preparation of gifts and does it all then, which is a reminder that that's where it really belongs, and it really could be done more simply. So that having been said, we talk about the liturgy as being in three parts. Actually, it's two services. The first service, called the synaxis, is the gathering to hear God's word and to make our common prayers. And we see that in the liturgy still through the readings of the Apostle and the Gospel. Here in Reston, we add, with the blessing of Bishop Theodosius, we add a reading from the prophets, which the liturgy always has. And especially today, it still survives in the liturgy of St. Basil when we have Vespers with a divine liturgy. The ancient manuscripts show us that the last reading of the prophets is actually belonging to the divine liturgy as opposed to Vespers. The second part of the liturgy, the Eucharist, that's where we really call the liturgy. You know, we live in a country, we live in the West, where the Roman Catholics have taken the word liturgy and used it generically to mean divine church services. But we have to understand that for us, the Eucharist is the liturgy, the liturgia. And we have to begin to speak of these things as though we know what we're doing and we understand how these terms are used. So we can use the term with a small l, liturgy, to refer to divine services in church. But we should understand that the Eucharist is really the liturgy. And then, of course, the priest says, "Let us depart in peace," and we have the dismissal, which has its own interesting historical development. Originally, the priest said, "Let's go," and everybody left. Then somebody said, "Oh, we can't go without a prayer," and they added the prayer behind the ambo. And then somebody said, we have to make it longer yet, and they made the formal dismissal, taking it from Jerusalem. So that's how I speak of the liturgy: the synaxis, the Eucharist, and the dismissal, or the apollysis. People don't ordinarily speak that way. But the Eucharist is a separate service. And it's important to appreciate that at the Eucharist, the only people who could stay for the Eucharist were the baptized, who could go to communion. So that's really the meaning of when the deacon says, "Let us give thanks to the Lord." Actually, it's the priest, I think, who says, "Blagodarim Hospoda," let us give thanks to the Lord. He's meaning, let's do the Eucharist. And the people say, it is fitting and right, dostojno I pravedno. And the people have a